You're listening to the Free to Be Mindful podcast, which provides bite-sized tips for busy parents, educators, and anyone working with kids. These real talk conversations focus on mindful living, mental health, and personal growth, helping all to learn, grow, and inspire with mindfulness in mind. I'm your host, Vanessa de Jesus Guzman, educator, licensed professional counselor, entrepreneur, and mom. I'm passionate about helping folks live life with peace of mind and ease of heart while not losing their, well, you know, here we go. Have you ever tried to practice meditation but have no idea if it's working or even if you're doing it right? Wouldn't it be awesome if there was something to let you know when you're in the zone, to let you know to do more of that? Well, there is something that does exactly that. It's called MUSE. MUSE is a brain sensing headband that helps you find more calm, sharper focus, and better sleep. It does this by measuring your brain waves and lets you know exactly when you're in a meditative state. It's an awesome tool for kids and for adults alike. You can get 15% off any MUSE product by clicking the link in the show notes below. Check them out at choosemuse.com. And again, don't forget to use that link for 15% discount at checkout. Hi, and welcome back. I hope that you're feeling good, looking good, and doing better in this world than you were yesterday. As always, thank you so much for listening in. So I'm always fascinated with the national weeks or day celebrations that there are throughout the year. I mean, what's wrong with a National Ice Cream Day, which, by the way, is on July 18th? If you have that, how can you really go wrong? And yes, some days are kind of silly, like National Talk Like a Pirate Day, which will fall on September 19th, 2021. But there are definitely some that are worth celebrating. So the month of May, by the way, is Mental Health Awareness Month. That's always great. And the first week of May has a bunch of celebrations. It's Small Business Week, which as a small business owner, it's much appreciated. It's National Wildflower Week, Choose Privacy Week, Nurses Week, and National Hospital Week, which in these past 2 years, more than ever before, thank you, and thank you to all of the medical professionals out there. It's also National Pet Week, which I feel like we're always celebrating our pets. And they deserve to be celebrated, but I just feel that's always happening. And it's, of course, National Teacher Appreciation Week. So, as I've shared in the past, before becoming a private practice owner, a licensed therapist, and a school counselor, I was a tenured second grade teacher. And although I no longer have to submit lesson plans or give out grades, I always consider myself to be a teacher at heart, especially because my life's work continues to have kids at its focus. This past year and a bit has, of course, been a lot on everyone. But the education system in particular has perhaps needed to make the most intense shifts. And if there is another field out there that I'm not thinking of that you think has needed to make shifts just as intense and major, please definitely let me know. All of us at some point or another were students. And as students, all we have ever known is that we go to school, we learn, we have recess if we're lucky, we do homework at home, and then we do it all again the next day. Most of us weren't exposed to classes online until college, graduate programs, or just to take trainings at work. But 2021 had students as young as pre-K and kindergarten log on to Google Classroom or any other platform to learn, to receive services such as speech and OT, to meet with their counselors and child study team. We've all seen each other's homes, we've all met each other's pets, and some people, kids and adults alike, even saw each other in their beds. Now, in the spring of 2021, more and more schools are going back into the buildings. albeit things look so different. But generally speaking, kids are really happy to see their teachers and to see their friends again. And so are educators. And by the way, the reason I say educators, it's because it encompasses all educational professionals, from administrators to counselors, OTs, PTs, media specialists, reading specialists, CST, instructional coaches, supervisors. It includes everyone. And there are so many opinions around our entire globe of what schools have done and how kids have learned from home. What may have been a breeze for traditional homeschoolers was definitely a huge adjustment for the rest of us who have traditionally had to go into a school building, into a classroom to learn. And learning from home, even with a hybrid schedule, has brought upon many challenges for kids of all ages. Learning from home requires a lot of self-discipline. It requires a lot of focus, organization, and time management. And these are all executive functioning skills that some students had trouble showing them when in a school building. And now trying to do it from home has posed a bigger hurdle. There are many opinions that say kids haven't learned what they've needed to learn. Maybe that they were just given busy work, not the actual work that they would have received if they were in school. And how can they possibly learn the same when they weren't in school the same amount of time? And that begs the question, did our kids learn differently? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. There's no denying that our teachers had to teach in outside of the box ways, and our kids had to learn differently too. However, does that mean that our kids learned less? I full-heartedly challenge that statement. Our kids learned to navigate computers, Chromebooks, Google Classroom, and any platform that they needed to use, at times better than their parents. We had little first graders learn the etiquette of muting and unmuting, again, at times better than their parents. And our kids learned how to socialize in different ways as they worked cooperatively in breakout rooms. Our kids learned how to check email, compose email. Still, I get a string of emails sometimes, like text messages, but they learned. Our kids learned skills that we were not expecting them to master until years after. Yet, they learned. And did teaching look the same? No, of course it didn't. It couldn't. But that also led to different types of learning taking place, most of which was beneficial for all students. Teachers moving forward will need to shift their expectations of their students come September, but this isn't because our kids have learned less. Teachers and educators will need to remember that students showed their learning progression goals in many different ways that not always came down to a paper and pencil assessment. They will need to remember that their students are more computer and technology savvy. Educators will need to continue to shift the way they teach, as going back to the way things were perhaps isn't the best answer. Instead of thinking that there has been a learning loss in the past 2 academic years, I ask you to think of all the gains that have been made, as the gains may truly outweigh the small losses. And yes, we lost eating lunch in schools, we lost recess, we lost physical handshakes, but we've gained so much more. It'll be interesting to see how this generation of students use the skills learned during the pandemic to their advantage. Let's remember to think with the growth mindset and to use the same mindset when interacting with our kids. They will forever be marked and changed by the global pandemic of COVID-19, but it isn't for the worse. Remember that the way we think impacts our speech. And our speech impacts our kids, as they are sponges and soak in all they hear. Let's remember to use this opportunity to help them understand that, yes, they've had unique learning experiences. And yes, this experience has changed the world, as they too will continue to change the world also. For all of my educators and parents who are their child's first teacher, I have created a free guide called How to Talk to Kids Without Losing Your Cool. This is a perfect resource for parents and educators who are looking for language to use to help kids make better choices and help what I call first-time listening. You can get it for free by looking at the show notes where the link is provided. As always, thank you for listening, and remember to celebrate teachers this week, along with nurses and hospitals, and apparently your pets too. And remember to take time for yourself, beginning with right now. So right now, regardless of where you are or what you're doing, begin to ground yourself in the space you're in. Look around and notice 5 things that you can see. Notice 4 things you can feel. 3 things you can hear. 2 things you can smell. And 1 thing you can taste. As humans, we naturally judge. We judge things and people around us. And very often, we are the strongest critics toward ourselves. Right now, I ask you to put those negative thoughts aside and counter them with points of gratitude. As I mention the following things, give yourself the space to put negative and initial thoughts aside and think of the positive things to each of these statements and what you're grateful for each. The first, your child, your student, or your friend's child. Next, that kiddo's school experience last year and this year. Now, think of your community. Remember, positive and what you're grateful for. Think of your family. And lastly, yourself. Take a breath in through your nose as these feelings of gratitude sit in your mind, and release them out through your mouth slowly into the world so they can continue to be the positive change that you wish to not only see, but also be. Have a great week. I hope you enjoyed this week's show. It would mean a ton if you took this moment to review the Free to Be Mindful podcast on the platform you catch your favorite shows. That quick and easy act lets me know what you enjoy, and it helps others find the podcast too. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so you can listen along next week. In the meantime, I welcome you to catch me on social media at Counselor V de Jesus. And as always, remember, in a world where you are free to be anything that you want to be, you are always free to be mindful. Catch you next week.